On and off the rugby pitch, I've had some difficult days, but always confided in my teammates. Don't be afraid to just ask.
All this week, we're raising awareness of mental health issues on Virgin Media Television.
This is such a hard thing to define or even admit.
With unique content across all of our studio shows.
Why can't I feel the joy that everyone else is feeling for me? Why can't I feel the joy that everyone else is feeling for me?
And culminating on Sunday with a night of special programming.
I feel that I deserve this dark side, if you like.
I don't think it reflects negatively on you as a player if you need some help.
Just ask.
Just ask.
Just ask.
Just ask.
Just Ask. Mental Health Awareness Week. All this week on Virgin Media 1. With unique content across all of our studio shows.
For me.
And culminating on Sunday.
Now, lots of people getting in touch on this, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, Elaine.
Yeah, indeed there are. I mean,
incredible stories.
There's absolutely so many, because earlier on we did ask you to tell us what you remember from that day, and Karen says, I was in my mother-in-law's when I heard the news. My brother was a firefighter in New York at the time, and we only heard he was okay the next day. That must have been absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying. We were talking about that because the communications went down as well. Like, you couldn't get in touch with friends or family who were over there. Adele says it's very seldom spoken about. A group of people who are very seldom spoken about, the bus drivers, who knew their passengers as they travel regularly on the same bus. They knew the driver, and these drivers, as a consequence, suffered from PTSD because they drove the passengers to work and into the Twin Towers and said goodbye to them. Little did they know that morning would be their last trip. Many drivers felt that they drove their passengers to their deaths. Can you imagine the impact that had on the drivers?
Absolutely frightening.
Isn't that unbelievable?
But the PTSD, and a lot of people are talking about that, even people getting in touch today are talking about that very thing. To this day, they're still feeling the after effects of it and what happened to them. And James says, I moved to Ireland in 2017. In 2001, I was a teacher and living in New Jersey. After the first period class, I was free. We heard about the plane hitting the tower. I drove to a spot where I was able to see the tower. I saw it come down. Since all the bridges in and out of NYC were closed for 24 hours, people who worked in Jersey were actually unable to get home. I remember seeing the pictures of that actually, and people just stopped in the streets. All the streets were lined with cars and people, and other people opened their homes so others could sleep. And supermarkets gave out free meals. So you see the best of people and the worst of people at times.
In the worst of times, Marcus says when the attacks happened, he was in Trinity attending a conference. He said, I was walking back to my B&B and I was wondering why people were gathered on the pavement staring at televisions through the glass. It was a shocking day, and I saved the cover of the Sunday Telegraph broadcast that I bought a few days later.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
But even when you think of children and the impact it had on them, I mean, we kind of know we were adults when it happened, but kids and the fear that the world was all about to end because it was such a catastrophic narrative going around at the time. I mean, Beth says, I remember walking home from school. I was only about 9 years old, but I remember a mother and son walking in front of me telling stories about people on the planes ringing their families to say goodbye, I remember being so sad listening to all those stories.
It's desperate. So they had friends all missing and are caught up in the whole thing, and it was such a strange atmosphere. Where were you when it happened?
I was working in news at the time, but I was on a week off and I was at my sister's house, and I never forget getting a text on the old Nokia. My old Nokia phone was before obviously before the smartphones,